Well, hello, Torchies. That's what we've decided to call the fans of this show because they seem to like it. I said it once just in jest, and everybody's like, I love it. So, all right, you're a Torchy now. Thanks for being here on Beyond the Torch. We're excited about another adventure, another survivor here that I think many of you will be very curious to know how he's doing. Scot Pollard. He was from season 32. It was a really interesting season. I had the opportunity yesterday while I did my floors and my dishes and my laundry to binge until he was voted out just because I wanted to remember him. So, anyway, we're excited to have you here, Scot. Thanks for being here on Beyond the Torch.
Welcome, Scott.
Thank you for having me. Thank you, Todd. Thank you, Leslie. It's it's an honor, and let's make a great show. Let's make today great.
Let's make today
I
great.
love it.
So I have to say this, Kaoh is in my top 3 favorite seasons of all time. I think your cast is incredible. I think you have a lot of different characters that, clash, but also work together to just make this makes something epic. So the fact that so far down the line, as far as Survivor goes, that it's in my top 3, I think you have a season that goes down in the history books. So I'm super excited to have you here. Plus, you have an incredible story that we are very excited to hear.
Yeah.
So welcome.
Which one? I've lived
Exactly.
a lot. I'm only 51, but man, I feel like I've lived 3 or 4 lives. So
Yeah.
you guys just tell me which story you want me to tell you, and I'll tell you the story.
Well, I'm excited. This is going to be so much fun. We do like to start, Scot. We like to start every episode out with this little section called "The Fans Have Spoken," and today I'm going to share just an email I got from someone who I think her name was Christine. She was so sweet, or Christina. She said, "I got into the show later than most, about 6 years ago, during a really difficult time. I was diagnosed with breast cancer on my 30th birthday, right as the pandemic began." While recovering and quarantined, my best friend introduced me to Survivor with season 28, and I immediately fell in love. With so much recovery time, I decided to watch every season, starting from season 1. Survivor became more than a show. It helped me get through treatment and isolation. Ugh, this kills me. And I've since watched every season multiple times. I'm endlessly drawn to the strategy, resilience, and human stories, and the show truly has a lasting impact on my life. How amazing is that?
That's crazy.
incredible. Yeah.
I love the COVID fans.
Yeah.
I was talking about it yesterday. So a lot of people started watching Survivor during COVID. And so, there's the old school Survivor fans who started day 1, but the COVID fans, they started and binged 40 seasons in a year. And so they know everything about Survivor, which is crazy. But I love them. I think they're pretty amazing. So that's awesome, Christina.
I agree with you. When it's 40 seasons, it's all fresh in your memory when you're binge
Yes.
watching it. It's like watching it back to back, like these shows are on Netflix or whatever. When you watch them back to back, all of a sudden it's fresh in mind. But when you have to wait for the next season and watch them
Exactly.
chronologically, and you don't go back and rewatch, there's a lot of forgetfulness, a lot of like, oh, you know what? I liked that character the first time, but then I rewatched it, and man, she was like,
Yeah. It is different though, like in different seasons of your life too, when you go back and see things.
Yeah.
But Christina, girl, that's a lot to go through all at once. I mean, COVID was stressful enough for all of us, but like to have to go through cancer and that treatment. Sounds like she's doing well though. And what an amazing thing to think, because I do think we like to binge Survivor seasons because it's like an escape. It gets us out of our reality, and sometimes reality can be kind of rough. And so I'm so excited to hear that it helped you through that, Christina. Thank you for being so vulnerable and sharing that story with us. That was pretty cool.
and I hope you're doing well health-wise. That's the
Yes.
most important part.
Yes, for sure. Well, Scot, we do have a lot to ask you about. But first, I
Yes.
want to know how you're doing health-wise, because you have had quite the journey over the last few years. You want to tell us what happened?
Well, speaking of breast cancer, it's my wife's fault. She started this health thing in our family, in our house. In 2019, she got breast cancer. She was ductal carcinoma and 11 centimeters, which
Ooh.
the doctors could not believe that it hadn't gone throughout her whole body. She's a miracle.
Wow.
Surgery took care of all of it, like no chemo, no radiation. It was just
Really?
all encapsulated right there. The other side had a shadow, so they just took them both. And so I was her caregiver. It was a grueling, I don't know, 3 weeks. I say that because in comparison, her caregiving for my heart issues was a much longer and much more protracted and much more disruptive experience. But from diagnosis to surgery to recovery was maybe 2 or 3 months for her.
Wow.
And so we dealt with that. We helped, she went public and she tried to help other people, of course, because that's who she is. And, she kept getting messages of women that were like, why did you go? It's like, I just turned 40. I just went in. And other women were like, well, I'm 45 and I haven't got checked. They went in and got checked. They're like, they found something. And then I got it out and I'm good. You saved my life. And so she kept getting messages like that. And so that was really the start of, her being out there for people and being vulnerable so that she could help other people. And then in 21, I had my annual heart check and everything was great as it always was. But we've just been talking about the COVID times. And I will put a disclaimer here. I don't tell anybody else what to do with their bodies. Okay. I'm just telling my story. This is true and it's all documented. All right. I am telling the exact thing that happened to me. I was fine. Everything was great. It was January of 2021. And my doctor said, you should probably get a COVID shot. I said, absolutely not. Don't need it. I'm healthy. If I get COVID, I'll be fine. They said, you should at least get a flu shot. I had one other flu shot in my whole life. And it was when I got traded from the Detroit Pistons, that jersey, to the Atlanta Hawks, which is not on this because I never played for them. They paid me for 2 years, but I never actually played a game. So nice. I don't have a jersey there. And they gave me a flu shot as part of my physical. I got so sick they cut me. That's why I never played for the Atlanta Hawks. The flu shot did not agree with me. I got sick immediately. And it was a shortened season. It was 1999. And it was a shortened season. So training camp was like 10 days long. The whole time I was in my hotel room doing the things that happen when you get extreme cases of flu. And so I was like, I'm never getting another flu shot again. Kids, etc. The doctors are like, you got to get a flu shot quick. Maybe I never did. And January of 21, they're like, yeah, you should get a flu shot at least. It'll help protect you in case you get COVID. So I did it. 3 days later, I got so sick and I couldn't walk across the ring. And so I go to urgent care and they said, you have the flu, but you need to go to the hospital. And I was like, well, if it's just the flu, I'll go home. They're like, no. Your heart's beating 10,000 extra beats a day. And we did the math.
What?
You need to go to the hospital now. You're going to die. And I was like, Went home. And so my wife talked me into going to the hospital.
I'm sure she did.
I called my cardiologist and I said, hey, I got the flu shot. And thanks, guys. So I'm in the hospital and they diagnosed me and all this stuff. That's what started my heart failure. It was immediate. It was virus. It attacked my heart and it released a genetic issue. Okay. So I'm not sitting here saying the flu shot almost killed me. I'm saying the flu shot released a genetic issue, which is exactly what happened to my father. My father had a diagnosis after years of bouts of flu and pneumonia that he couldn't kick. And in 1990, we finally got him to go to the hospital. And the doctor said, look, you're in heart failure. You're going to die. A virus started this cardiomyopathy. The difference was they didn't have the technology back then. And at that point, if you were going to get a heart transplant, had to be exactly your size. Well, my dad was 6'9", 380 pounds.
Oh my gosh.
So the doctor said, if you feel well enough, you can leave. You're not getting a heart because there's nobody big enough to give you a heart. If there was somebody big enough, their heart's probably going to be just as bad as yours. So live your life until you can't live anymore. He made it another 9 months. So I say all that to say this. This was a genetic thing, but you kind of think back and go, man, if I hadn't got that flu shot, maybe I hadn't got that virus. Maybe I wouldn't have had this issue. So after being in heart failure for a couple of months, still in COVID times, they were like, now you need a COVID shot. Got the first one, I was okay. I didn't want to, but they were like, you're going to die if you get COVID because your heart's not working. Get the first one, I'm okay. And I've scheduled my first ablation. So my issues were electrical. You can have plumbing or electrical with hearts. And I don't want to have to go into that because that's not what this podcast is about. But mine was all electrical. My pipes were clear, no plumbing issues, no cholesterol, none of that problem. It was simply the virus released a genetic issue that caused my heart to have short circuits in the sets. So they were going to schedule an ablation, which is where they put a hot wire up your groin and into your heart, and they burn it. And they try to just burn that piece of your heart, kill it. So they kill the short circuit. I had it scheduled in Chicago, and because I live in Indianapolis. And as I'm heading up there, I'm like, I can't breathe. Everything hurts. This hurts. It hurts to breathe. It hurts this. I go in there, they do the scan, and they're like, you can't get your ablation. I said, why? They said, well, you have myocarditis and pericarditis. And it just had the second shot. So no more shots for me. You guys do you. I don't tell anybody else what to do, but shots don't agree with my body. I don't do these kind of shots either anymore because I'm not 20.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't drink when I was 20, but so anyway, I'm in the hospital for 4 days fighting for my life because of myocarditis, pericarditis. And, pericarditis is the sleeve that the pericardium is the sleeve that your heart sits in. It's like a little sac. Both of those were inflamed, my heart and the sleeve. So every time my heart beat, it was squeezing on it because it was so inflamed. It hurt my heart. It hurt my feet. So I lay back and it was screaming in pain. It was sitting up and screaming in pain. Every time I moved and breathed, it was just like, ow. So 4 days of heavy IV steroids in the hospital. Almost died. I was in the ICU. And anyway, so long story short, that was my beginning of heart failure. 21. I'll fast forward to 23 after years of drugs, 3 ablations total that didn't work, obviously, and lots of drugs that didn't work, including one that took 2 weeks for my local pharmacy to get in because they were like, we've never given this drug out before. Came in a glass bottle. It was like it was from 1901. It was like, you got the elixir and got laudanum in it. I'm like, oh no, what is this? And they were like, don't touch it with your bare hands. I was like, what?
Oh my gosh, you're allowed to ingest it, but don't touch it.
First side effect, death. No joke, I'm not lying. It's on the freaking list. It says death. First side effect. I'm like, Doc, are you sure? They're like, look, we used to give this to people in the 70s, but with what you had, but people kept dying, so we stopped giving it to them. That's why we don't do it anymore.
We're going to give it to you.
We don't have any more options, and we think you can handle it. I'm like, they didn't tell me this before I took it. I took it, and then it didn't work.
No.
What about that? And they were like, that's when they finally told me. They were like, well, we're out of options. And so I was on all kinds of stuff they hadn't used in years, glass bottle stuff. There was this one called Mixilitine that was also kind of out of use for the thing that I had, but they tried it on me anyway. Lots of stuff that I had to get blood tests to make sure that I didn't have certain antibodies in me because it would kill me if I took it. And I didn't have those, so I take it and it didn't work. So 3 years later, we're 23. I'm not 2.5 years. I am talking to my cardiologist here, who's now a good friend of mine, Sonny Chowdhury. He's on my wife's charity board. Girls of Life.
Love it.
I'm cold all the time. So girlsoflife.org. Go there. Sorry, shameless plug.
No,
my wife's
love
charity.
it. Please plug.
Dr. Chowdhury is now a good friend of mine, and he's on the board, the advisory committee. And he said, we got to talk about transplant. I was like, oh no, flashback to my dad, which I told you about. I'm going to die. I'm too big. No one's going to have a heart for me. I'm going to die. So I was just like, not listening to anything he said. He's like, nope, there's technology. We're different now, blah, blah, blah. It's been 33 years, whatever. And I was just like, nah, I wasn't listening. And it took until December for them to convince me to even try to get listed at the St. Vincent's here in Indianapolis, which I did. And they listed me as status 4. And that's the highest level you can be without being hospitalized or have this device or drugs that cause you to go into the hospital to get these drugs to kind of calm your heart down or whatever. Or an LVAD, which is an external heart pump that they do open heart surgery to put it into your heart, but you have to carry it around in a pouch, and it's like an external heart that makes your heart pump. And I wasn't a candidate for that because they said it would probably kill you because your heart's beating 10,000 extra beats a day.
It was still doing this. That's exhausting.
Oh,
I have SBT, so I get it. Like as you're doing this, I'm like, oh, because I have that.
You get tired and you just can't form a thought. There was no oxygen.
You ran a marathon
all day, every
day. Yeah.
All day, every day I was running uphill. And so I spent a lot of time on my couch, and my wife was wearing all the hats. Like I said, so when I made the joke at the beginning, like, oh, it was 3 or 4 months maybe of being a caregiver for her. She's in 3 years and she's making all the money. She's caregiver. We're going to court for this or that because there's some other stuff in our personal life. I mean, we're just blowing money because we have to take care of our kids, and I'm not doing anything except trying not to die and taking all these drugs. And so her love for me really came out for those 3 years. I already knew she loved me, but
that's amazing.
She literally saved my life because before I got listed in December of 23 here in St. Vincent's, I said, I'm not doing it. I don't want to go through it. I'm just going to live until I'm not living anymore. Because my brain, no oxygen, all the drugs, all the side effects. I was so tired. I was just like, I don't want to fight anymore. For the first time, sorry, I quit. And I've never done that in my whole life. I've pushed through injuries. I've pushed through surgeries and rehab. I've done a lot of horrible stuff to my body over the years to become an elite professional athlete for over a decade. There's only about 400 of us that have made it over 10 years in the NBA. That's a crazy but real stat. And so when you think about it like that, I've done a lot of stuff to try to be, alive and successful and all that. So after this was the thing that finally pushed me over the edge. I was just like, I don't want to do this anymore. I have this whole living thing. I'm just going to live until I'm not. I don't want any more surgeries. I don't want any more drugs. I don't want any more procedures, nothing. And she looked at me and she gave me the verbal slap in the face that I needed. And she said, this isn't about you. This is about your children and me.
That's awesome.
And so, and it's been, I've just had tomorrow's my 2-year anniversary of my heart transplant. And this part still chokes me up because that woman saved my life. She was like, you're getting this. I will make sure that the doctors do what they need to do to save your life because I love you and you're not going anywhere. And
That's so awesome.
Yeah, like that part was, again, I know she loves me because I have life insurance. So
you're like, she's like, I'd be set, but not really.
Yeah,
like there's something about.
Okay, she could go back to Colorado where she's from, and her sisters and her mom live there, and she's like, I could go back home with your life insurance and raise our child together. Which, by the way, that's a whole different story. But I do want to talk about him in a second.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, I got listed here. Then I got listed in Chicago because St. Vincent's was very honest. They said, look, us getting a heart for you is like winning the lottery. We did 28 transplants last year. Here's John.
Whoa. Oh.
You need to get it listed as many places in the region that aren't fighting. Like, so you can't get listed in the same hospital, like at a hospital in the same city because they're going for the same organs. But Chicago was a different region. So I went up to University of Chicago, who did all 3 of my ablations. Great staff up there, great transplant program, just like here, and got listed there. And then the plan was to come home for a weekend and rest and then go to Vanderbilt in Nashville, which is about a 4.5-hour drive for us, which is a little outside the window. They want you to be within 4 hours because if you get the call, they need you to get to the hospital. You got to get there in 4 hours. But they were like, we're Vanderbilt. We'll figure it out if you're listed. So I was status 4, like I said, here. And then in Chicago, they hadn't listed me yet because I came home. But as I was leaving, we were out halfway home when the doctor called. He goes, I just got new data from Indiana, which was a month before. It was December of 23. This was January of 24. He goes, I'm not saying I would have kept you, but I might have kept you in the hospital. You're getting worse. This is a drastic decline. Be careful. I was like, well, I'm just chilling this weekend. I'm going to Vanderbilt. He goes, be careful. So I was like, oh, this is actually getting serious. And so I went into Vanderbilt, expected to be there for 3 days. And on day 2 of testing, they said, we're not testing you anymore. You're going to the ICU. You're not leaving without a heart. I was like, we have kids in Indiana.
Life.
We have a house and my wife has a job. And we're like, oh no. And she didn't hesitate. She didn't get sad for a second. She just said, I'll figure it out. And she did. And that's a whole different episode. But so what we thought was going to be a 3-day trip turned into 3 months. And
oh my gosh,
that's being, I wasn't in the hospital for 3 months. I was only in the hospital for 28 days, 26 days, maybe. I got admitted on February 6th. I had a false, what they call a dry run on my birthday, February 12th, which was just a little while ago.
Oh, happy
and
birthday.
then, thank you. And then on the 16th, that was the second one, and that ended up being the one. So tomorrow, I know we're filming this early and this won't be out, but we're filming on February 15th. February 16th is actually my 2-year anniversary. And got a heart, and we've been lucky enough to meet my donor's family. I wrote a letter. I wrote all the notes right after my surgery because I wanted everything to be fresh. But this whole process in a nutshell, I was athlete brain. I was like, I'm not that bad. I'm going to be okay. I just need to rest. And I can drive once in a while without passing out. And then my wife was like, you probably shouldn't be driving. I was like, you're probably right.
Probably right. Yeah.
And so I was doing stuff and trying to do things because she was just doing everything. She was dad hat, mom hat, taking the kids to bed, getting them to their athletic events. And we got kid in high school sports and kid in second grade sports. And I used to coach and I couldn't coach him. And I was just like, just sitting there going, I don't want to be the guy that's always taking care of him. I've never been that guy. And so
It's interesting that you say that, Scott, because I just watched your season yesterday and you talked about how much you love providing.
Yeah.
And as you're saying this, I keep thinking about that scene when you were talking about how like I want to do this, you know, and I can't even imagine how hard that must have been to be down and out like that for so long.
I've never been taken care of. My dad lost everything when I was a little kid. He used to be very rich, and my older siblings grew up with a different life than I had. And he lost everything when I was a little kid. I grew up. There was times where we were on welfare when my dad died when I was in high school, and I lived with friends my junior year of high school because my mom had to go live with one of my brothers. So I would just kind of couch surf. I wouldn't stay at homeless, but didn't have. I was just kind of going and living with friends for the rest of my junior year. So anyway, I've gone through some stuff as a kid, and you know, I've always thought, you know what, one, I'm going to be successful and I'm going to take care of my family. I'm going to make sure that I'm that guy. And I learned that from my dad, and what happened to him was out of his hands. But and so I've always been a provider, and so being taken care of was never in my wheelhouse. My
Can
wife
I ask you a
Yeah.
question about that?
Yes.
How, I don't know why this is like tugging at my heart. Like how has that changed you as a person to now know what it's like to be on the receiving end of that?
The humble train has arrived at my house.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it has made a permanent stop because I'm still that way. I'm disabled for life. I already had orthopedic issues. I can't go work. I wake up every day, and that's the gravy. But being immunocompromised is different for everybody. It's not great for me. I get sick a lot. I was in the hospital last October. It's been since October that I've been in the hospital forcibly. And that was bad. And I thought I was going to be okay doing stupid athlete brain. Like, oh, I'll be fine. I'll be fine. And I kept getting sicker and sicker. And finally I was like, I need to go to the hospital. And I went in, and I had 3 different really terrible things. I don't want to go into detail about it, but the infectious disease doctor behind his gown and mask and everything, because of what I had,
Oh.
looks at me and he goes, it's a good thing you're not 70. And I go, why? He goes, that was a wake-up call. He said, don't, I'm going to quote him. He said, don't fuck around with this.
Wow.
It'll kill you. Your immune system cannot fight these things. I had 3 different really gross stuff. So that was a wake-up call. But let me back up. Back to the athlete brain and thinking, oh, everything's gonna be fine. This was post-transplant, just last fall. But pre-transplant, I'm sitting there going, I'll be okay. It's the rest, I'll be okay. The first time that in my brain, you know, even though there wasn't really any coach's thoughts being processed up there for about 3 years, and I was trying to live life with no brain, no oxygen, no thoughts, couldn't remember jokes, couldn't remember stories. I used to sing dumb songs. I always change the words to songs and sing those, and I got in trouble on Survivor for that. They had to tell me to stop doing it. Because they were like, I would start singing Frank Sinatra. They're like, we don't have the rights to Frank Sinatra. I was like, there's no cameras around me. They're like, we can hear you all the way on the other side of the island. I'm like, no.
That big voice.
Yeah.
I know that story.
So I'm like, I'm gonna be fine. I'm gonna be fine. I woke up intubated from transplant, and I gave the sign to my wife, which was this. We agreed because they strap you down because everybody tries to pull the tube out when you wake up. And so I'm strapped down. We knew this was going to be the case. They told us. And so this was the sign we agreed on. I wanted to do this one. I couldn't get my hands together. We agreed. I was like, okay, that'll be it. But my hands were strapped to my sides. So I was like, well, that one's not going to work. So it was this on my side.
Yeah.
And so she saw that and she started crying because she knew I was okay. And then they finally pulled the tube out. And the first thing I did was I sang a stupid song. And I said, I left my heart in San Fran, Nashville, because that's where I had my heart taken out of my body and burned in an incinerator. So that was my first thing I said after the transplant. And that's the first time through the whole process that I thought to myself, I was going to die. because I felt oxygen going to my brain for the first time in 3 years.
Wow.
And I just was like, I'm forming thoughts. My brain, like I sang a song, I did something normal for me. And that's when I knew, oh my, the doctors were right. I was actually really close. I didn't have months. I don't think I even had many weeks left. I was really close. And they just looked at me and were like, you need
I
to
have a
go
question with that. Like, so you weren't, able to think and process a whole lot of things, but do you remember what your reaction or your thought was when you found out that you were getting the transplant?
Yeah, I mean, ESPN made a documentary about it. It's an E60 called Heart of Pearl. Uh, that's a whole different story, and I'll tell it real quick. But to answer your question, when they said you're going to the hospital, I started crying. I was like, no, I'm not that sick. I'm like, again, athlete brain. I'm sitting there going, oh, I just need to rest. I'll be fine. These drugs will kick in. I'm just doing this whole going through the listing process because my wife talked me into it. I'm not going to end up needing a transplant.
You're humoring her.
Yes, like that. My athlete brain is still sitting there going, we'll work through this. We'll just go try harder. Yeah, it'll come back.
That's
It's a muscle.
survival, though, Scott. That's like survival. That's how you had survived your entire life. Was we're gonna get through this. Like it's all
honestly, that's how I act with everything. Is like, oh, it's fine, it's fine, it's fine.
Yeah.
So like, I understand that.
Yeah. And so that was the mentality. And so that when they were like, yeah, you're not leaving here without a new heart, I was like, oh, this is real. I started crying because
that's a weird thing. I mean, like the thought of the heart that has kept you alive for almost 50 years at this point, right?
49.
Was about to leave your body and somebody else's. I mean, like that thought would be so bizarre. I was thinking about that this morning, getting ready for this interview. I'm like, wow, that's
crazy. It is. And you go to counseling before, and actually they had to put me on a little something because I was starting to look at commercials and cry.
Was this after?
Yeah, before. Sorry,
before
they were. I was like, I'm watching commercials and crying because you go through a social aspect too. Because they have to know if you're a drug addict. They're not going to waste an organ. They're not going to waste an organ. Kidney, liver, heart, lungs, any of the things that's going to take someone else's. They're never going to live again. You can be a partial liver donor and still be alive. You can be a bone marrow donor, all that kind of stuff, but the organs that it's coming from somebody that's not going to live anymore, they're not going to waste them. There's not enough.
That makes sense.
So they do a full screening of your social life, your physical life, your health. Do you make great decisions? And that's the part that is what Pearls of Life is for, is educating people, because so many people think, well, oh, you just ruined your heart, or you were bad, you were fat, or you ate terribly. It's like, no, it's genetic. That's not the case. Yeah. I was in shape. I used to walk all the time. Everything hurts. My body hurts. So I didn't run or play basketball anymore. But we used to walk 3 miles a day, my wife and I, and that was our bonding time because we would work things out. And all of a sudden that got taken away during heart, failure. And so our relationship changed. And Leslie, that's kind of what you're talking about, is how did I deal with that flip flop of being the guy that was the provider and my wife didn't have to work. And now all of a sudden she has to do everything. And that's still the case. Our relationship is completely flip flop. The humble train has come and stayed at our house. I am a house husband and I do all the dishes. She still cooks, and she cooks like the wind blows. It's incredible that I'm under 300 pounds now because it's a portion control problem because everything she makes is so delicious. I can't stop eating. But we have a very good relationship. We have a very strong relationship. I completely saved her life when she had cancer surgery.
And this is just her saying thank you.
Yeah. And so now she owed me, and so she saved my life grudgingly. She did not want to.
Well,
she sounds incredible. I feel like we need a podcast with her.
I want her to be on the podcast. Well, here's the thing.
That's the case when most people meet us. They're like, okay, cool. You're a big caveman guy, but she's awesome. Can we talk to her?
Well, it's funny. I mean, I don't want to say it's funny. I'm a little emotional hearing you. My husband just had a cancer diagnosis and has to have surgery. Sorry. It's going to be fine. We caught it early, but it's like one of those things where he's kind of going through what you just described.
It's a reality check.
Well, and I'm having to like reassure him that you're my person. I don't care about your insurance money. I don't care about I'm going to do whatever I can do to keep you here with me because you're my person, and I can just feel what your wife went through. So thank you for sharing that.
Continue to be a rock for him, because even if he doesn't show it, and I didn't, but I am obviously forever grateful. Every day that I wake up is because of my wife. So keep being a rock. I was a rock, like I said, for like 5 minutes, and I was tough for her. And I was like, oh no, you're gonna totally get through this. And then as soon as she went back for surgery, I lost it. I was in the waiting room, and I took my sweatshirt off, and I just cried in my sweatshirt because I had been ignoring all of my selfish feelings, and I'm gonna lose her, and I couldn't lose her because we just had a baby 3 years before, and it was because of Survivor. That's why we have our fourth child. I have my 3 from a previous relationship, which Dawn has helped me raise from young ages. But I got home and I got my phone back. I didn't even get home. I got my phone back in LA when we landed from Cambodia, and I called her. I said, "We're having a baby," and she said, we had never talked about it. I had a vasectomy, and this is getting real. I had a vasectomy after my 3rd kid, so we've been trying. But no, we had just really thought, yeah, we're fine being a step parent, her being a step parent, me being a parent, and it was working. We had 50-50. It wasn't a normal, what they say is normal. It's just completely abnormal. We had week on, week off, so the kids would just had a very balanced schedule back and forth. It wasn't every other Wednesday and weekends, which is, I think, incredibly awful. I didn't grow up in a divorced family, so I don't know what kids could do with that kind of trauma. But we had a very equitable one. And so we were just like, oh, you know what? The week that the kids aren't with us, we get a bunch of stuff done and we can take trips or whatever, and it's all right, But man, Survivor, I got home and I got my phone. I said, I love you. I miss you so much. And we're having a baby.
Let's have a baby.
We did journaling. And yeah. And so we call him our little Survivor baby. He's named after his grandfathers who he never met. And Dawn never met, my wife never met my dad. And I never met her dad because he died at 51 of pancreatic cancer, which was, it wasn't his fault. It wasn't genetic. That was, he was in the Vietnam War. He used to wash out Agent Orange off the airplanes. So pretty sure that, like, a lot of dudes in his platoon are buried like next to him, and they all were like 49 to 51. So sad story. But anyway, our son is named after both of his grandfathers, my dad and her dad. And so he's got a cool name, and it's got some, he better have some strong shoulders because those are 2 great men that he's carrying their names. So,
I love
that. It's all because of Survivor.
What's his name?
His name is my dad's middle name, Ison. It's spelled like ocean, but with an I. And it's a family name. My dad's a junior, Pearl Ison Pollard Jr. That's my dad's name. Can you imagine a 6'9", 380-pound dude walking in going, "Hi, I'm Pearl."
I'm Pearl.
You know what? He's the only one who probably could walk in and say, "Hi, I'm Pearl." Okay.
And his dad, Pearl Sr., scared me to death.
Oh, I'm
like,
sure.
Pearl Sr. had those kind of blue eyes. There was like just lasers. Like,
Oh, yeah.
They pierce
it
your
wasn't
soul.
a color. Yeah, it wasn't a color. You like Pearl Sr. would look at me. I was,
You see my soul. Look away.
I did something wrong. And so, yeah, but it's a family name. And then his middle name is Robert after Dawn's dad, Bob Gastis. So,
I love
that.
I love
Yeah.
that. Well, okay. So I'm so glad to hear you're doing better. I know a friend of mine who had a heart transplant, and she had to, is that every year you go in and they take like a little piece of it and like make sure there's no rejection?
I wish.
Oh, it's more than that.
After transplant, it was like every week. I have scars here on my neck.
Really?
You can't see them here, but it was every week biopsy. And they go in and some hospitals don't do that. There's blood tests out now, and I've done speeches for both companies that do this, CareDx and Natera. And Natera is more in the kidney space, but they have a blood test that tests for rejection. But for Vanderbilt, they're still doing things where it's 100%, but it's a little more invasive, a lot more invasive. But they go into your neck and they take a little chunks of your heart, and they check for rejection. That goes on until 6 months, a year. For me, a year and a half post-transplant. And at first it's like every week, then it's every 2 weeks, then it's every month, then it's every other month, until My last one was September of 25, which was
Wow.
a year and a half. And I'm done because I've never had any rejection of any note. So I
She
just
must
had
have
my
had
2
some
year.
issues
Yeah.
or something, and that's why she had to
Every,
go back every year.
everybody's different. Yep.
So
Hmm.
you said you met your donors, family?
Yeah, they saved my life. His name is Casey. You're not going to believe this. His last name is Angel.
What?
I mean, it's and there's a you need to watch Heart of Pearl because they're in it.
Yeah.
It's an
Oh, you get to
E60
meet them.
and it's named after my dad, Pearl. That's why Pearl's a wife, So
Mm.
it all goes back to dad. But yeah, Casey's family is alive and well, and they're in Texas, and that's where he was having. He had terminal lung problems. He was in a coma, and they were like, "There's nothing we can do." He's been in and out of the hospital for years at this point, and he was put in the hospital February 2nd, and I was put in the hospital February 6th.
Oh my gosh. I just
And
got chills. Like,
I
it
know.
took me 10 days and them, 14 days, but they gave the permission. They said, we think he's a donor, but we're not sure. But we know this is what he would have wanted. He saved 5 people. His kidneys saved
my gosh.
teenagers. His kidneys
Oh.
saved 2 different teenagers. So Casey's an angel. He's my angel. And like I said, Heart of Pearl really does. They did a great job of telling the
This
donor story.
where can people watch that?
It's streaming on ESPN if you have ESPN Plus or whatever. I can still look at it, I think, on ESPN. If you have it, you can go to the streaming and just Google E60. I'm pretty sure it's on YouTube. I'm sure somebody's ripped it and put it on YouTube by now. But it's called Heart of Pearl. And they did a great job of telling the story. My sister, who's in heart failure, it steals the show. My wife obviously steals the show, and our now 18-year-old. My God, they were filming him, and I had to leave. I was like, I gotta go. The kid made me cry so
Wow.
much. So it's a really good story, and
I'm going to be watching it after
they
this.
they did a great job. And it's only an hour. It's an E60, so it's not like you have to sit through several episodes or anything. It's just 1 hour.
Your story, like I'm sitting here, my brain is like thinking a million things, but the one thing it keeps coming back to is that your story is exactly why we wanted to do this podcast.
Yes.
Because I am like, I did not know this part of you. You see one dimension of people.
Yeah.
You see the competitor, you see the gamer, you see, the one who's trying to win $1 million, or, maybe you weren't there for the money, but you were there to win because you were an athlete. You know what I mean? And like, that's all we get to see. And people decide who people are based on a character on a TV show. And even though it's you, it's only one dimension. And right now, I would venture to say that everyone listening is falling in love with you right now, because, and also feeling very remorseful for their feelings about you before they heard your story. Because and like, this is what we want to show on this show is like, these are people with like multi-dimensional lives and a story, and they have walked through hell, and they have, come out the other side. And, I guess I'm curious, because let's get to the Survivor part, because I know our fans are like, okay, let's talk about Survivor now. It's great, but let's go. Survivor. Why? You're this athlete, you're making all this money, you're popular, you're famous. What was this about?
So I retired in 08, and I was going to write a book, and then I had some personal issues that made it so my book I couldn't tell the stories because I would get sued. And also, but to be fair, the stories, I had a ghostwriter follow me around for about a week in New York. It just happened to be where I was at the point. And he goes, "You have a multi-million-dollar bestseller." And I said, "Well, I can't use all the names. These guys are my friends. These are my, former teammates, and they have wives and kids and girlfriends and stuff. I'm not wrecking their family just to write a book." And then he was like, "Well, yeah." So the book deal ended with that. But in 2011 was the first time Survivor called me. And I was in LA actually pitching a movie that I helped. I didn't write it, but it was loosely based on my career. And we were trying to get in. No, at this point it wasn't a movie, it was a TV show. And I knew it was good because a couple years later, that after HBO met with us and said, "We want it, but we don't want your writers. We have our own writers." And my writers were contractually connected to the script. And so they said no. And then a couple years later, they came out with this little show that The Rock starred in
Oh, wow.
about an agent that was a former player. And that was my experience.
Interesting. Interesting. So
Wow.
they
So I
called
knew
you
it
when
would
you
have
were
been
there
great.
pitching that. Yeah, that would
And
have been
so
great.
I was out after we had got shot down from HBO and some other studios as well. And we were soaking our sorrows in a bar. And so I was divorced at this time. So I was just out there, and my one of my associates at the time happened to be a female.
Oh, okay.
And so they came up to us, somebody came up to us and was like, "Are you guys a couple?" And I was like, "Oh, why?" And they said, "Well, I'm a producer for Survivor, and we'd love to have you guys on."
Who was it?
I don't remember because I said
Really?
no, because
Oh, because it's the first time.
Yeah.
I got divorced and it just didn't work out. I'm not trying to denigrate anybody. It's just that's the timeline.
Right.
Mhm.
And so I said, "Well, thank you." And then they called again in 2014, and I was remarried to my lovely wife, Dawn. And when they called, I was like, "I'm gonna check with her because I'll do anything with bother her." So this will be the first time we're apart. we don't do anything alone. We've both been married before, and so we know what love is. And we don't do girls trips, boys trips, whatever. It's if you're going to see one of us, you're going to see the other of us.
It's an us trip. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love that.
So we've done things the wrong way in the past, and we're doing it the right way now. But we, I talked to her about it, and she said, "You know what? Can I go?" Because I guess she had actually applied years earlier in Denver
Really?
with her first husband, and so she was just like bummed out because they didn't want both of us; they just wanted me. And I said, "Let's see how this goes." I went to casting, and speaking of binging Survivor, they had to give me seasons of Survivor to binge because I had never watched the show. And so I binged the show, and I did, I worked out, did all the testing and all the stuff that you have to go through when you go through casting. I went back for casting again, and I had formed a plan because they showed me some of the previous athletes that have been on the show, Jeff Kent, Cliff Robinson, who was on the first iteration of Brains, Brawn, Beauty, which I'm assuming I would have been on if I had said yes the first time.
Right.
That probably would have
Yeah.
been me instead of Cliff.
Yeah.
God rest his soul. Cliff was a great man, and
Oh,
so
yeah.
we've
Yeah.
lost him. But we went through the process, and he said, "All right, everybody and both sides of your families have to sign the NDA," and that's a whole lot story. But I got picked, and so said goodbye. She didn't know where I was going. We had some whispers. I had some friends that were connected to some people that were connected, and like that, they said, "You think you going to Cambodia?" But we didn't know until I got my plane ticket in LA, and I was like, "Oh, yeah."
You didn't know you were going to Cambodia before?
Nope. Not until we got to LA and we were in casting, and then when we flew to Cambodia, and Leslie, I don't know what your experience was like, but when we got to Cambodia, it was 4 days of Survivor School.
Yeah, it was pretty intense, Todd, wasn't it? I would say.
We had 12 days.
Yeah, we
inside.
were there for 12 days.
No
Because
cameras,
it
no
took us-
talking.
No,
Yeah,
no.
days.
But I mean, Todd and I were making eyes because we liked each other as friends.
But you guys, you've talked about this before on your show, right? Like, do people
yeah.
know this? Okay, yeah, because
I don't know if
I
I
tell people, like,
said that long.
there were producers on the plane keeping us apart. No one talked to anybody the entire time through
Yeah.
all of casting. You didn't know anybody's name. You could look at people, and all of a sudden, if you start making eyes, they pull you apart.
Yeah.
It's back to back,
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
so we did 4 days in Survivor School. Don't eat this, don't touch that. If this
Mhm.
comes at you, run away. If you step on this, it'll ruin your life.
Yeah.
If you eat this, it'll kill you. If you eat
You're gonna be
this, it'll give
dead.
you diarrhea.
You'll
Yeah,
be dead by tomorrow. Yeah.
yeah. And so that was to me the hardest part. And then lockdowns was the hardest part. But,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That was horrible.
So boring.
Yeah.
You have no electronics, you have nothing. And I
mean-
journaled the whole time. And Todd and I have talked about reading our journals on the show at some point.
I gotta
because-
take mine out. Yeah.
just the observations of like, and we had nicknames for each other. I think I called him the skateboard boy or something because I thought he was a skateboarder. He totally wasn't. I was way off, but anyway, I
I'm trying to
digress. So
remember.
you get there.
Yes.
Here's the thing I noticed yesterday binge watching your season. It was so fun. And it was, I remember, like one of my favorite seasons. And I think because it was so hard, but like those sores that everybody got, It was the most disgusting thing. We're like eating dinner during that one episode where Neil
Bad
gets
idea.
medevaced, and I was like, oh my gosh, this was a big mistake. I just don't remember that part. I think I blocked it out. But did you
So
have any of that?
they filmed 2 seasons in Cambodia,
Mhm.
season 31 and 32. And actually, we filmed before season 31. And we already knew how many crew had been lost. They said 20 crew during our filming was lost. They had to send them home because they got sick and infected and stuff.
Oh.
And then they filmed season 30. As we were leaving, they were like, hey, just so you know, you're not going to be season 31. We're filming next week, and they're going to be season 31. You're going to be season 32. That's all we knew about that. But then later on, I found out everyone on our brain island, we had 3 different islands. We were literally separated by islands. So Brawn Island, Brain Island, and Beauty Island, which is the one that we ended up finishing the show on. And then there was the Challenge Island, and that's where we did tribal councils. But everyone, to my knowledge, on the Brain Island ended up getting staph infection to the point, like Neil, that they had to end up getting a surgical removal of their skin or something because of their staph infection.
Ooh.
So they're never going back to Cambodia.
Imagine.
Moral of the story, Cambodia is never going to happen again because you can lose crew and people
Yeah,
do
that's
these
not a
horrible
good idea.
infections. I did have one. I had a boil in my groin area, my right thigh. And the doc messed with it one time. He was like squeezing. I was like, hey, let go. That hurts. And it was almost to mine. When I'm thinking back, I was like, God, was he trying to make it worse? So I'd get a medevac also. Because I was doing okay. I was like, I think I got further than they wanted the dumb athlete to get. And so I was kind of like, do they really not want me to get very far? Because I'm kind of doing well, unexpectedly.
You were.
I kind of kept sneaking by. Never won an individual challenge because I couldn't. Like we're doing the basically the cross, where you're holding up here and you get the back of your heels on this little thing. Ty weighs 45 pounds. He's just like, and I'm up there at 300 just going, there is literally 0.01% of my foot on this little thing that's digging into both of my heels, and everything hurts. As soon as Jeff said food, I was like,
oh my gosh.
That's what's super interesting is everybody always looks at the biggest guy as the biggest threat. And it's like, that's not the case. It's usually the tiny people when it comes to individual immunity that do really well.
My season, Michelle was so good because she was very nimble. She was awkward.
Yeah.
Socially and physically. But when it came to setting those things, like I remember the challenge where we had to walk in between these squares that were like,
I was like, his
wires.
feet don't even fit in those squares.
Exactly. Size 18 feet. I'm like, yeah, this is fair. I could just step in there. Meanwhile, Michelle and Ty are like tap dancing through, like
hopping through.
Yeah.
And all the balance beams were like this wide. And I was like, his feet can't even, like, literally, I did notice that. I was like, there's like the chances of you being able to win one of those challenges would have been a miracle.
It was very similar to James on our season, though. James was huge. And we all looked at him as a threat, but he didn't win anything.
No.
The guys off camera, they would joke that, oh, this challenge will be good for you because it's just about strength. And I was like, I haven't eaten in a week. I'm not strong. I lost 46 pounds in 28 days. I went back down to my playing weight.
I asked the girl who said you were her favorite villain. I don't even know if favorite is the word. You were the most villainous that she remembered. I asked her if she had any questions, and she goes, "Will you just ask him if he has any regrets or what, would he do it different today?" So that's my question from my friend Trisha.
Would I do it differently? No. Because I don't do redos. I don't do regrets. I just live. And at the time, like I said, Jason and I formed a bond because we were the only ones talking about our wives and our kids and how we miss our families. And they didn't show that, And so we would talk and talk and talk. And every time Jason and I would be talking about tough times versus providing for our families. And that's why we were there. Both of us I was like, hey, I'm getting paid to go on vacation. This is nothing. This is so fun, And it was, and even losing weight didn't bother me because I was like, yeah, then I've lost weight before. I've starved before. I've tried to cut so that I'm in shape for the season. I've put myself through physical strenuous activities. And so I was like, yeah, this is You know,
How much weight did you lose?
I lost 46 pounds in 28 days.
Yeah, the big guys, they always lose the most. They lose a ton. That's tons. That's crazy.
That is crazy.
I went back down to playing weight. I was 266 when I left. I was like, my whole career up until I was like 35, even a couple years post career, I was 265 to 275 from age 17 to age 35 because
Wow.
I was working.
Yeah.
And so
I mean, you had, yeah, your body was you had to.
that was my livelihood. So I was like, this is how much I weigh. And so after, being retired for 5-6 years, and also I wanted to look strong after I retired. So a couple years later, I gained a bunch of weight and I was just like, yo, I was 325 and I was just walking around. I was like picking people up, like, not really, but I was big and strong. I went to my cardiologist and he goes, he's the weight. I go, wait, whoa, I look great. I'm in shape. I feel awesome. He goes, yeah, your heart can't tell the difference between muscle and fat. It's the weight. I was like,
Oh my gosh.
So that was the
Such a
first
great
time I learned
point.
about that. Yeah.
Huh.
And so I did. I dropped it back down to 285, which at this point, that's where I'm at right now, which is the lowest I've been since post Survivor because of my heart failure. Just I was blowing up. I was up to like 325, 326 in the hospital because my heart wasn't pumping. So I was just holding
bloated.
underwater.
Yeah.
They put a diuretic IV in me, and I peed out 12 liters in less than 24 hours.
Whew.
That's a
My
lot of
word.
pounds of water
That
running.
is.
It's not processing.
Well,
I do
okay,
have
so
a question real
oh, yeah.
quick from a Survivor fan who wants to know if you have spoken to Ty since.
Yeah, we actually, not recently, but right after the show, not right after, but a few months later, we were in San Francisco visiting some other friends, and Ty and Mark, his boyfriend, we went out together and hung out, and great dudes. I have no animosity towards anybody on the cast. I really
Yeah.
don't.
I could see that in your exit speech because
Yeah,
you were
it
like,
was-
good play. That was a
Yeah.
great play. I was like, that's an athlete, right? Like he gets it. Like some people walk away butthurt and never get over it, and you were like, man, that was such a great play. I mean, you were, the one that was the brunt of it, but still, it was a good play.
I've won at poker and I've lost at poker, and when you lose, it's like, what? You had a better hand. Good job.
Yeah. Well,
That's not a big
okay, so
poker
let's talk about the editing a little bit because, I think maybe your edit made you look a little more like a bully than I think you probably were. But what do you feel like wasn't shown enough? Is there anything you want to share about that?
Look, first of all and foremost, I don't want to come off as sour grapes. I knew what I
No,
was
I
signing
don't
up
feel
for.
that. Yeah.
It's reality TV. I signed the contract. I knew that it could go any which way.
Right.
But what I do is I've been a public speaker for a long time. And post Survivor, I was doing speeches and I would say, thinking of your last 72 hours, because when I played, it was 39 days. And they told us it was about 3 days of real life for one episode. Wow. Which is basically 40 minutes. Because
Yeah.
I said, think about your last 72 hours. Have you done something smart? Have you done something dumb? Have you done something mean? Have you lost your cool? Have you been funny? Can I edit those last 72 hours and make you look any way I want?
Yes.
100%. That is so good.
That's a great way to
That's
put it.
amazing.
That is why I have no animosity towards anybody. I've
No.
played the game. I didn't do anything original. Other people had put out the fire. Other people hid utensils in seasons before me. We didn't do anything original. It was just it was easy to make Jason and I look like the mean guys because we were the big strong guys that couldn't win a challenge. And so,
and you were mad about that. Like it makes you angry. And I feel like in a way it's like you were just being human beings, but literally it was just put under a microscope. You know what I mean?
And I said right before we started the podcast that I viewed a lot of the things that you said as like sarcasm and wit. And so I feel like a lot of that often can come off as mean or rude or bullying, but I find it as kind of like funny, it's the cheerleader, it's funny to me.
people that knew you well that weren't Survivor fans were like, I don't see why people are calling you a villain. That you were being hilarious. That was really funny. They're not getting your sarcasm. That's you telling jokes without being obvious about telling that joke. And I was like, look, I don't care what people think about me. I never have. Obviously, if you look, you can Google me and see all the hairstyles I've had. pretty stupid looks
I
over
have
the
a
years.
sense of humor.
This is what I would say
I
to
have lived
Survivor
life.
fans is to go back and rewatch Kaoh Rong after listening to this, because
Yes.
I think you're gonna watch it in a different way. And I think you'll
way.
probably laugh instead of be like, oh, he's the bad guy.
Well, and if they still think I'm a bad guy, that's fine.
Then that's fine,
You
right?
know,
That's
it's
fine.
entertainment. It's TV. That's why you're watching. You're being entertained.
Exactly.
It's the WWE or whatever they call it nowadays.
I mean, I was the
it's
sneaky
wrestling,
guy,
it's entertainment.
so I get it, and I don't have a problem with that. You know, I'm like, I was the schemer. I was the like slippery little sucker is what they called me, and that's fine with me.
Yeah.
So,
It's
and
just
not
easy
everybody
to
has to like
forget.
it.
It's
Yeah.
easy to forget when you're out there that this is a game and they're playing the game. Like you take it so personal. And I always giggle now when I watch reality TV and people get so upset, like they were just so betrayed. It's like, dude, you signed the same thing I signed that
Yeah.
said that
Yes.
this was what it was about. This is a system we all signed up for. Like,
Yeah.
why are you so surprised? You know, I think we
heard-
sign it thinking we're going to be the one to make the move and they're going to have to understand. But then we realize, oh crap, I was the one that was made the move on. That sucks.
And really, when I thought back after we finished, you know, because we had a long time to think about how our ending was going to look and who, you know, we knew who won, but we had to keep it all secret and all that because we have a long time. It was 9 months, I think, or whatever, 10 months from
A
when
long
we
time.
finished filming
Yeah.
until it aired the next spring. And I'm sitting there thinking back to casting. And I was like, at the end of her, I remember him from casting. And I remember the psychiatrist asking me, what do you think about this person and that person? I would say things, and I was like, oh, man. That's why we got put together on the same show. We're on the same cast because I specifically said, that person is very obviously annoying.
I always tell people that when they're
It's going to make
interviewing.
better TV if we put these
Yes.
people that are complete polar opposites.
Yeah.
Let's put them together on TV and starve them.
Well, if you are asked a question in a casting call, like if you are asked the question, who do you not want to play this game with? And
That's
you
good
give
call.
them an honest answer, I guarantee that person will be very, very close vicinity to you in this game. Period.
I have a perfect example from mine that was like that too. They asked me if I could play with any celebrity, who would I play with and why? And I was being, you know, cheeky. And I said, Nicole Richie, because she's a skinny little bitch who would become my best friend. And we would sit around and gossip the whole time. Look who was my best friend on Courtney, the skinny little bitch from New York who sat around and gossiped the whole time. It's crazy, but it's true.
But isn't
How
that
weird.
funny when you're waiting for it to air? I wasn't thinking about stuff on the island. I was thinking about casting
Yeah.
and how the people that I remembered, like, oh, we were in casting together, and most of them weren't. And I thought of this little nugget. You guys remember Jay Starrett? Of course,
We talked to him and
Yeah.
he said he was there with you guys, right?
he was with us in Cambodia,
Wow.
Survivor School, 4 days, and all of a sudden we were counting around. We're like, how many people are going to be on the show? 18. There's more than that here. And I remember because we kind of were like, oh, we're gonna have fun. Like, you know, you're making eyes.
Yeah.
There's no cameras. We're like one time we were going through an airport in China on the way there. And I remember Jay grabbing somebody's hat and put it on my head. As we were just stuck in this line, and he grabbed somebody's hat, put it on my head. I was like, we're gonna have
Crazy
fun.
is this? Like,
We're
can you
gonna have
imagine how
fun.
different the game would have been if he was with you?
And then as we're pulling away in the boat, he's standing on the beach. I'm like, oh, and everybody's like, that guy. And he's like,
No.
Was there a girl as well?
yeah, but I don't remember her.
She's
I don't
not
know who
been.
it was. Yeah. I thought it was going to be Liz, actually. Liz was there and I really thought like, I don't know if she was one of the first. And I thought we were going to be in the same group. But we weren't because they didn't put me in brain because I'm an idiot. But
No,
why
I
they
think
put me
you
in
just
brawn?
really represent Braun well. I really do.
I'm so attractive and smart, you know. But I thought that it was going to be Liz that was going to be the female that was that didn't make it, not kicked out, because Jay was obviously on the show later. But I don't remember a female. I just thought it was just Jay. There might have been a female there as well that we just forgot about.
There isn't, you know, sometimes there is, sometimes there isn't. Our
Yeah.
season, we didn't have any alternates. There were 16.
We were told that we had alternates because I remember them saying if you offend the Chinese culture in any way, we're going to rip you out and put your alternate in. And
They
I
didn't
remember
bring
thinking,
any.
where are the alternates? Like I didn't see them anywhere, but
Yeah.
I think it was bluff.
It was
Well,
a
you
bluff.
also had 10 days of Survivor School. So
12.
maybe
I
they
mean,
could
it
have
was
flown them in. Maybe they could have flown them in if they,
True.
That's
That's
true.
true.
somebody backed out. They're like, we got plenty of time. Bye.
That's
They got
true.
budget. They got a
But we
budget.
were there forever. Oh man,
We
it was-
were.
That's
Ugh.
crazy. I thought
Well-
4 days was too long. I was like, look, I haven't been on the beach before. Does nobody else here know how to swim? No, they don't. That was the
It's pretty
truth.
intense. They brought snakes out and showed us which ones were poisonous. And I'm like, they all look like snakes to me.
Yeah.
I'm just going to stay away from all of them.
One thing I was worried about in Cambodia was those like foot-long
the vipers. Oh,
Oh.
the
foot-long
centipedes.
They were
Foot
huge.
long?
They were like this. They were huge, and,
They're-
and they're gold colored, and they show them a ton in our season. And
I think I remember.
I remember the guy. He's so funny. Is the same guy for you guys? The Portuguese, South American. I think he's from Chile.
I think so.
And he's like, "This is not going to kill you, but it's going to ruin your day. This is going to hurt. You're going to say, God damn." I'll use my favorite person. I wish we were friends.
Oh,
But
well,
yeah,
maybe he'll watch this and give you a call.
but yeah, that was the only thing, because those were the only things I saw of all the things they warned us about. Those were the only things we saw regularly, or I did. And I was like, I don't want to get pinched by that.
I don't want my day ruined.
Yeah, he's like, it ain't gonna kill you. He's gonna ruin your day. I was like, all right. And we
Wow.
saw those a lot.
Noted.
I didn't see anything else. They were like, if you see this, you see that. They're warning us about jungle cats. We never saw them.
Oh, that would have been cool, bro.
Yeah.
Did you happen to walk away from Survivor like learning anything about yourself at all?
It strengthened my family bond that was already very strong. Like I said, we had a baby because
They got a baby from there.
So it made it so that when Amazing Race called shortly after, because actually Jason called me. He goes, CBS about to call you the long for Amazing Race, and I was like, maybe away from my family for another 7 weeks.
Listen, that would have been freaking amazing. We need to get you in touch with Amazing Race again.
It would have been, and here's why: because Jason is so freaking hilarious. Because of his military time, he's got stories after stories and all the jokes and the toast, and he doesn't really drink, but he's got all these funny stories like he is an old Irish drunk. He's not, but he's so funny, and I wish that people saw that about him, because me, I don't care. But
Yeah.
he got cast in such a weird, not Jason like, because he is hilarious. And he's so disciplined, and he's so like workhorse, and that was why I wish. I don't do regrets, but if we had gone on Amazing Race, I would have loved for America to see Jason in the different setting where we're not trying to eliminate other people other than just being competitive.
You're just racing.
And
Yeah.
we're not trying to be underhanded or whatever. And again, I'm not saying I know all the rules to Amazing Race, but when they called, it was my fault. I made too many demands.
You were a diva, weren't you, Scott?
Yeah, I was 100%.
This
I
was
was like,
before the humbling of Scott.
well, I mean, literally, it was a
Humble
year.
Scott.
It was a year later, and they're like,
That
"Hey,
is
you want to leave
very
for
quick.
7 weeks again?" I'm like, "No, I
Yeah.
don't want to leave my children for 7 weeks again." And my wife, who is still like, we were going through IVF, and we're trying to have this baby, and I was like, well,
I mean, that is a huge time commitment, and it was like so close after. So if it was a year after it airing, was it, or
it was 20. I know, you know what? I think we had Hyson a little while, maybe. Let's see, we filmed, it aired 2016. It might have been after it aired. It might have been the summer of 2016, like right when Hyson was born. Hyson was 2 weeks. We brought him to.
Oh, of course you said no.
Yeah.
He was
I
2
mean,
weeks old, and we brought him to the
It had to be
finale of
worth it.
Survivor.
oh my
And I
god,
think it was that summer. It was April or whatever. And then I think
yeah,
was
it would have been filmed that. So yeah, that makes
so,
sense.
when Jason called me, I was like, sorry, bro, but I mean, I'll see, but I'm going to make some demands.
Yeah. I mean,
And I made some demands, and they were like,
and they were like, no, thanks.
So
you know,
if they were to ask you again, would you be allowed to with your heart?
Oh no.
Or could you? No, that's okay. We'll put you on Big Brother. You're in a
Yeah.
house. soon.
Nope.
He's
Uh,
like, no thanks. I'm not leaving my family.
no,
Like,
I have to take drugs every 12 hours. Period.
Oh, no.
I have to stay immunocompromised. I can't be in a house with strangers. If anybody gets cold, I get sick. So
Yeah, no.
like that's why I don't work anymore, because it's like I feel good and I do things for like 3 days in a row, and all of a sudden I'm on my couch for a few days. Some people aren't like that. This is my experience. Some people go back and they're running marathons with a transplanted heart or kidneys or liver or whatever, and good for them. I'm happy for them. I'm not jealous.
Look,
But
you're alive.
I'm
That's
I'm
incredible.
literally the tallest person that's ever had a heart transplant. I contacted Guinness. This is a true story.
oh, wow.
How tall
They
are
did.
you?
I'm 6'11".
Holy shit. I didn't realize that. Oh my
They,
gosh.
We were
They-
called munchkins in our season, and there was nobody near your height.
yeah. And so I contacted Guinness. It's $5. By the way, if you're looking to try to break a Guinness Book of World Records record, it's $5 to apply.
Really?
And I filled it out, and it took them months. And they did a search, and they got back to me, and they literally said, "Look, it's not a competition unless somebody else has filed to be the tallest person ever on the heart transplant the world has. But you can't find anybody else, so we can't give you the award. But
That's
unofficially,
crazy.
I'm the tallest person in the world to ever on a heart transplant." And Vanderbilt confirmed it. Vanderbilt's done. They broke a world record my year. I was number 16 in 174 heart transplants. That was a world record ever. And then this last year in 25, they broke their own record. They did over 200 heart transplants. They did like 700 total transplants. They did like over 200 heart transplants. So they're world record holders. But it's not a competition. No one else has applied. So I'm like, all right. The problem is I have a brother that's in heart failure, and
Oh,
he's taller than me.
is he taller? You're like, why bother? He's just gonna
So,
win if this
yeah,
happens for him.
wait. I'm like, please just do it.
Oh.
I want him to be here more than I want him to. Not
So your whole family is gigantic. Are your kids tall too?
My oldest is only 5'7". She was supposed to be 6'1". My next oldest was supposed to be 6'4", and she's 5'11". And then my next oldest is supposed to be 6'8". He's 6'4". He's playing football for the University of Hawaii. He's a large dude. And he's
a
very,
legend.
yes, he's a defensive tackle. You're going to see him on TV this fall. And our youngest is he's lying. He'll be 10 in April. But he's tall. He's 5 feet.
Oh wow, already.
He's predicted to be 6'11", but like I said, all the other kids were predicted to be taller. And I keep marrying half Asian women, so
Oh yes, so they're fighting the fight. They're like, "You're not
That'll
gonna
do
get
it.
this."
there's genetic in there, and it's but my wife is 6 feet tall.
Oh wow.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
But her mom is 5'2" because she's from Thailand. Her dad is 6'3". He's like the giant of his Italian family. And everybody else, we've been to West Virginia where they came from Italy and landed in West Virginia. Well, we've been there, and the men are all like 5'8", 5'9". So, yeah. So
Wow.
we'll see. Genetics matter. I could have married some giant broad, but
Listen, I have to say that I think that this has probably been my favorite podcast. Like this has been
Yeah.
really an awesome story to hear. I am super impressed with you.
You're flattering me.
Well,
No,
seriously.
you're not just a survivor of, Survivor. You went through 10 years in the NBA. You've been through incredibly difficult health
11.
stuff. Or 11, sorry. And
That's all right.
incredibly difficult health things and scares, and with your wife being sick for a while, like the things that you've been through and the way that you have grown through them, through the years, and you're just so vulnerable and open about it. We appreciate that so much. This was really, really good.
And if I may, can I do another shameless plug about my wife?
Please do.
Yes,
So
please.
she was in the hospital waiting for me to get a heart transplant. And she told this story at the first gala that the Pros of Life had, and it's a tearjerker when she tells it. When I do, it's not, because I don't have the gravitas. But she was sitting in the hospital, and I'm asleep, and I've got beeps and all kinds of cords connected to my neck and all this stuff keeping me alive. And she's sitting there hoping for her husband, and she's not able to go. She found out the Olympic career, and she opened up the phone and she signed up right there. And a few days later, I got a heart. That's not why I got a heart, but that's why Pearls of Life exists. Because she and a friend of ours created this charity to educate people about the myths of organ donation, the fears that people have, that we both have. I wasn't a donor either. I'm a donor now. I don't know what else I can use, but you know what? Somebody that it's a burn victim, if I pass, they're going to get a whole bunch of tattooed skin. They're going to look cool because I've got a lot of skin that I could donate and help a burn victim live a more normal life. And that's one of the many things people don't think about. You can help up to 80 something people, save up to 6 or 7 lives. I'm not the expert on that. I am the expert on talking to large groups of people about it and the myths about organ donation, things that aren't true. I didn't get a heart because I'm Scot Pollard from my NBA thing. I got a heart because I was about to die.
Yeah.
And Vanderbilt is a center that has a giant reach because they have technology that other places say they have, but they haven't implemented. And I don't want to go into that. But Pearls of Life educates and helps people that have to travel for transplant, like we did. We almost had to sell our house. I don't care how much money you have, going and living somewhere else for 3 months without any notice or any understanding, and not being able to work your job like you are at home. Luckily, my wife's a realtor and she's very good, by the way. But back then, she was still just kind of in her second year, and she had to work on a laptop the whole time. So Pearls of Life helps people that, we're sitting there going, okay, yes, transplant centers have hospitality centers, and that works for you and your caregiver. But what if your child needs a transplant?
Yeah.
And wants 3 other kids? And you have to relocate to another state. That shouldn't be what stops your child from getting a life-saving donation or organ transplant. So Pearls of Life has paid rent for people. They've donated money to a place called the Joe Beretta Foundation, which is in Nashville, and they're building a house for families that have to travel for transplant. Because hospitality centers, it's like 1 bed, and you get 1 bed and it's shared a kitchen. And we're like, well, Dawn's never leaving me. She never left my side once while I was in the hospital. She didn't go home. She didn't see her. Corey and our kids came down. We had friends and family and people just streaming in to help us out, which again saved my life. But it costs a lot to not die. And so that's what Pearls of Life is for. And that's why I want to do another little shameless plug for Pearls of Life. Go to pearlsoflife.org. Follow us. We're doing a gala this fall. We did one last spring. Dawn, before she gave her speech, she's sitting there in the crowd, and the person speaking before her was finishing up, and she's like, I'm not doing it. Yeah, I'm not letting her speak. She went up there and gave a 10-minute speech and got a standing ovation, and everybody didn't perform crying because she told her version of what happened. And I went up there and I was having a good day. I was really sick, and I had to follow that. And so our first gala went off really well, raised a bunch of money, and we're gonna add a golf tournament this summer. We're working on trying to get the dates set, but pearlsoflife.org will be we'll post all that stuff.
Have all that information.
But
where's the gala going to be?
We're in Carmel, Indiana. It'll probably be somewhere close by here. Last year's was the Lucas Estate. I don't know if you guys have heard of Lucas Oil Stadium where the Colts play. The Lucas family has a home right by us. They live about 5 minutes from us. And so we have our first gala on their property in a fall. It's a big property.
Wow. And all the information is at pearlsoflife.org, right?
Well, it will be.
It will be.
We don't have a save the date yet, but we're working on both dates because we were trying to do the gala this spring, and the board ran out of time. A lot of volunteers, and I'm not even on the board because I'm a solicitor. And so if you solicit in other states, you have to be on registered in all the states if you're on the board. But I'm just a volunteer solicitor. So we're tax legal. All of your money goes where you think it's going. We don't pay anybody yet. Well, you might start paying somebody because everybody's kind of doing this as a volunteer thing, and that's what's been slow. But it's really incredible.
Does Pearls of Life have social media as well, or just the website right now?
Website, Facebook, and Instagram. Just Heart of Pearl, watch that. And if you don't get emotional about organ transplant after that, you don't have organs.
You don't have a heart if that's the
Then
case.
maybe you need a heart transplant.
You might need a heart transplant if you don't get
Like,
emotional. I love
jeez.
that. Scott,
Yeah, I'm
you
excited
were
to watch
so much
this.
fun. Thank you so much for
Thanks so
sharing your
much. I
story.
talked so much, and I wanted to hear more about you guys. And
Well, you can
And
listen to
this
the
is about
first
you.
podcast we did. If you want to know our stories, listen to our first episode. And that's me and Todd talking about our story.
all right, I will, because
Yeah.
like I said, I didn't go on Survivor because Survivor. I went on it to get paid to go on vacation.
Listen, that's one of the things though that I love about Survivor is you've got your super fans like myself and Leslie who that was our dream, but then
Mhm.
you get people who didn't know anything about Survivor but become a part of the family, and it doesn't matter how you got here, you're still a part of it, and that's where
Yeah.
we get to meet each other and know each other, and I love the Survivor family.
Yeah.
What are there,
It's-
like 600 of us now?
800 and some.
800?
Yeah.
Too many, not true.
Yeah.
We love
Feels like too many. It's hard to keep up now, but it gives us a lot of people to, get content from.
Yeah.
I mean, that's true.
Maybe one day
No,
we'll
I
have
love the
every single one of
Survivor
them.
community. It's
Yeah,
just
it's
great.
really fun. Yeah. Well, thank you for your time today, Scott. We appreciate you. And,
Yes, thank you.
I appreciate you breaking the stereotype just by being you today. This is such a joy. This is such a fun thing to do, to be able to introduce the world to the real Scott, not the Survivor Scott or basketball Scott or, whatever.
You Google me, but you don't know me.
Exactly.
Exactly.
But you do now. We do know you now. So thank you so much. And tell your
That
wife
was awesome.
that I love her. I haven't even met her, but I love her.
Yeah,
And she's my hero.
incredible.
So, yeah.
Well, you can find her picture on Pearls of Life and all that stuff. But yeah,
That's
she's an incredible human being.
Yeah.
Save some lives. Be good to each other. Love y'all.
Yes.
Love you too. Thank you, Scott.
Thank you, Scott.
Oh, my goodness.
That was great.
Are we ever going to be the
he's
same
awesome.
again? I don't know. I think I'm changed forever. That was amazing.
So, I thought that Scott on Survivor was the sarcastic kind of, villainous type guy, and just that was what we got to see. But hearing his story, like, damn, he is freaking incredible. So yeah, he is sarcastic and witty, but that was really cool. I don't even really have words because I wasn't expecting that. And
Yeah.
so I think that's why I enjoy doing this podcast so much is I go in without knowing anything really about who we're talking about, like on a personal level, and really hearing their story has just opened all sorts of new doors for me.
Mhm. And it opens our mind to be able to see things in such a bigger way. So thanks for hanging out with us today, guys. I know you got something out of that one. Woo! And we'll put all the links in the show notes so that you can go see pearlsoflife.org and also the movie that he talked about transplants. I think that's an important step for all of us to make and just educate ourselves. So listen, you're not just going to learn about survivors, you're going to learn about life in this podcast. So thanks for being here, and make sure that you send in your voicemails. Let us know what you think about the show Survivor, what it's done to change your life, to make you, to open your eyes to what's going on in the world. I think my eyes just got opened a little bit more, even just from talking to him. So thanks for being here, guys. And we will see you next time right here on Beyond the Torch. Mwah.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks so much for hanging out with us today on Beyond the Torch. And before we go, I just want to let you know the story doesn't end when the episode does. Todd pours his creativity into Todd's Pop Shop, where he designs custom Funko Pops for fans who love Survivor and pop culture. You can find his work on Instagram at Todd's Pop Shop. And if you're in a season of transition with your faith, identity, or even just life in general, I'm Leslie Neese, a life and faith transition coach, and I offer one-on-one coaching for people learning how to move forward honestly and whole. You can find me at leslieneesecoaching.com. I also host a podcast called Honoring the Journey, where we talk openly about faith perspectives, doubts, questions, and the courage it takes to stay curious. Thank you so much for being a part of our tribe, and thanks for walking this journey with us. We'll see you next time on Beyond the Torch.